Welcome to the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, brought to you by the Arkansas Cattlemen's Association. Here, we dive into the heart of Arkansas's cattle industry, where legislation, education, advocacy, and development come together to support the hardworking cattle producers of the natural state. Whether you're in the pasture or on the road, this is your connection to the people, policies, and programs shaping the future of our industry. All right. Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast. We're glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. If I sound however I sound to you while we have this fancy podcast studio, it's an office, it's a spare office with some things on the wall, and these fancy equipment, I am losing my voice, and so it's going to crack. It's going to break. It is what it is. It's fine.
We've had a busy week.
Yeah.
It's very busy week.
It's the real, as we like to say. So this is not manufactured. This is real life. But we're glad you joined us for episode 6. We have had a busy week. And so with that, this podcast is going to be a little different. We're still going to do the Hats on the Hill. But really, then we're just going to spend the second half of this podcast talking about that week and talking about ACLC. So we're excited, and I think we're ready to jump right in.
Yeah, let's go.
All right.
So we're going to do something new this time. So Hats on the Hill. Everybody asked me, where's our hats? We got 'em.
You can't fit
We
them.
can't.
Like,
you know, I mean, we could sit here like this.
So if you're not watching the video, you should pause this and go look on YouTube and watch the video, because you will see us attempting to put our cowboy hats on over the mic or over the headphone sets that we have. It's a struggle. It's not a thing. Yeah, I guess we can just like store them right here on the table.
Sure.
They exist, I promise.
They're here.
They are on the hill. They were on the hill a lot.
They were on the hill a lot
this week. And so, yeah, so we can hop in with that and kind of talk about why there were so many hats on the hill.
Yeah, so let's just, start with the rundown. What happened this week?
Yeah. Actually,
I got to go to the Capitol twice this week, so.
You did? What a time. Yeah, so normally, wow, that was new. That was new. Normally, Nora Lee is at the office, and so making sure, putting in memberships, being here to help our members and answer questions and do communications type things. But this week we had an opportunity for her to go to the Capitol 2 different times, so it's very exciting. So this week we had a lot of movement at the Capitol. If you remember last week's podcast, it was a recovery from the snow and ice that had happened, and so they'd been fairly light the week before, so this week they definitely hit the ground running and had a lot on the agenda at the State House, making sure that things were getting some forward progress after a week of not taking off. They were still there, but they were not running any controversial bills that warranted discussion because people could not make it. And so this week we had a lot of things happen. We had a lot of meetings down at the Capitol. Our Farm Bureau put together a Farmers Day at the Capitol, and so while we were there for our normal job on Tuesday, there were probably about 100, 200 probably 250 farmers there able to share their story of what they were doing, and so it was fun to see a lot of our members there that were also Farm Bureau members, but really exciting to see them and for them to kind of see what happens at the Capitol. And then it's Senate Ag Committees, House Ag Committees. They voted on things on the floor. We'll get into all of it. And then we had our Young Cattlemen's, our Arkansas Cattlemen's Leadership course that joined us at the Capitol later on this week. So it was busy. It was full.
Very busy.
Capitol Security was very busy going through all of the humans that were there. But it is, as we'll talk about later, it is the people's Capitol. I mean, it is your building. You're able to enter it. Senator Caldwell made the point that it's probably easier to get into the Capitol than it is to get into a public school or anywhere else. And so that's a fair point. It is the people's building. And so this week we really got to see the culmination of that and see lots of our members at the Capitol.
Yeah. So what are we looking at this week?
Yeah, so we've talked a lot about a lot of different bills. I gave y'all a pretty heavy update last week of just here's some of the things that have been introduced. We don't have a lot of movement on those bills that we've discussed. One bill that I do want to hit on is Senate Bill 290, and so that is brought to you by Senator Blake Johnson and Representative Vaught, and so it is a reiteration of Senate Bill 84, which, if you, unlike me, are not a nerd and don't have all of this memorized, is the moratorium on moratoriums. And so, as I lovingly call it, so essentially, Senate Bill 84, let's start with the original bill, specified that the state agencies would not have the ability to create permitting moratoriums. That responsibility, that authority would go to the Arkansas Legislative Council. It also immediately removed any existing moratoriums. And so that was Senate Bill 84. It was introduced, it was deferred to the Senate in the Senate Ag Committee. So AKA Senator Johnson put it there. It was on the agenda, but it wasn't actually on the calendar, did not want to be discussed, wanted to have, in that committee meeting, wanted to have much larger conversations with the public about it. And so those conversations have been happening. He and Representative Vaught rewrote the bill. And so instead of amending that one, they just created a new bill that is Senate Bill 290. Says a lot of the same things. It says that the state agencies do not have the authority to create a moratorium. That authority would go to the House and Senate Ag committees. So if the state agency, if Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, if the Department of Agriculture, if any state agency wanted to create a permitting moratorium, they would have to come before the Senate and House Agriculture committees and justify that moratorium, and the committee would then vote yes or no. Also, this bill, Senate Bill 290, also says that any existing moratoriums have to go before the Senate and Agriculture Committee within 30 days. And so whereas the first bill immediately did away with the moratoriums, this bill says they just need to come and explain what the moratorium is and to present their case for continuing that moratorium to the Senate and Agriculture Committee. And so for the cattlemen's, this is a private property rights issue. This is giving the power to the elected officials that you, as a cattleman's member, as an Arkansan elect, and that represents you. And so Arkansas is a right to farm state. We have that in the Arkansas. That is a strong belief here in the state. Arkansas is a private property rights state. That's in the Arkansas Constitution. And so what both of these bills do is support that private property right, makes it where the legislature, in some form or fashion, whether that be ALC, the Arkansas Legislative Council, or whether that be the Senate and House Agriculture Committee, has the control over over permitting moratoriums instead of a state agency. And so from a cattleman's perspective, we support both of these bills. We know that there's a lot of misconception about both bills. If a lot of this bill, both bills stem from the Buffalo River watershed. If we're being honest, that's the catalyst for them. And so there's a lot of misconceptions. I've heard, I probably have talked to quite a few people about it, and I've heard probably a different explanation of these bills every single time I talk to a different person. If you're interested, read the bill. We'll put the link in the description. It's Senate Bill 290 is the one that is currently on the agenda for the Senate Ag Committee that is not deferred. Senate Bill 84 is sitting on the agenda, but it is deferred. And so I've heard that these bills remove I've heard that Senate Bill 290 removes the moratorium, the hog farm moratorium in the Buffalo River watershed. I've heard that Senate Bill 290 allows people to build hog farms in the Buffalo River watershed, that it allows certain people, I've heard everything about these bills, but really when it boils down to is in the bill, it's a 1.5 page bill. I encourage you to read it. It talks about who has the power to create a moratorium, which would be, if these bills were to pass, would be the if this bill were to pass, would be the House and Senate Ag Committee. And with the state agency coming and providing their justification for a moratorium. And then so essentially for us, for the cattlemen's, and we've talked about this private property thing, but it gives the ability for the moratoriums to have public input more than a public comment. And so to have public accountability, because a state agency is not somebody that is elected by the people. A representative, your senator, are elected by you. And so it is putting power back in the hands of the people. All of that to say, very long-winded answer on these bills, but really there's a lot of misconception. There's a lot of misinformation that is out there. What's the old saying? A lie can get around the world but faster than the truth can even put its pants on. And so that's what's happening with Senate Bill 290 for sure. And so that is, like I mentioned, it's on the agenda for Tuesday at the Capitol for the Senate Ag Committee. If you don't know, the way the agenda works is just because something is on the agenda does not necessarily mean it will be discussed. It is at the discretion of the sponsor of the bill and at the discretion of the chair. We do believe that bill will be discussed on Tuesday. I cannot guarantee that bill will be discussed on Tuesday. And so it's going to be an interesting topic. It'll be an interesting conversation. I encourage you, if you have thoughts on this bill, if you have feelings on this bill, which if you own property in the state of Arkansas, you should have thoughts and feelings on Senate Bill 290, reach out to your elected official. Reach out to your representative, to your senator, and let them know, because I promise you the other side is doing exactly that. And so the other side of this argument is obviously the environmental side of it, of we want to protect the Buffalo River watershed is the majority conversation right now. And so while that is a very feasible, very understandable, very strong argument, we also want to protect the Buffalo River watershed. We want to protect the natural state that we live in, but we also want to protect producers' right to farm and right to raise livestock and right to this livelihood and this living that we make. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. We want to support and protect the environmental side of it. Agriculturalists, cattle producers were the first environmentalists. We still support that. And so that is the big piece that is the other side of this argument, and a lot of the misinformation is coming from the fact that we just want to pollute the watershed. We just want to do all these things, and again, mainly around that Buffalo River watershed. But I'll make an argument that there's actually 57 watersheds in the state of Arkansas. 57. It's the entirety of the state. And so giving state agencies continuing to hold that power over the watersheds of an entire state, and having the ability to tell anyone in that state or in that watershed, which again covers the entirety of the state, they can't produce cattle, they can't have whatever it might be on their private property, makes it a lot more of a concern for our members. And so that's where we are coming from. We are engaging on this bill fairly heavily at the Cattlemen's, along with other agricultural organizations. And so again, I encourage you, read the bill. If you ever have questions about it, reach out to me, reach out to your representative and your senator, and encourage them. I talked to a representative yesterday that was like, well, I can't support this bill. It does this, it does that. And I was like, well, sir, that's not actually the case. Here's exactly what the bill says. Here are the cattlemen's concerns. Here are our producers and our members' concerns with this bill. And after we left that conversation, he's like, well, I didn't understand, which, I mean, it's not to his side yet, so he has not done all of the research that he will do before the vote. He did specify that. But it is, again, a lie can get around the world 2 times before the truth can put its pants on, is what I just keep coming back to. And so there's a lot of misinformation. Read the bill, interact with your elected officials. Give us a call. We'd love to talk about it. We're going to talk about that one a lot in the coming weeks. So I have a lot of other bills that have been introduced. Again, not a lot of movement within them, and so that's the one we're really focusing on today, and then in the coming weeks. So you'll be hearing from us. If we need y'all to really truly engage heavily, we will be reaching out. I promise you. And so while this is a call to action, there will be if needed, a true call to action where text messages to members, emails to members, phone calls to ACA members will happen in order to ignite and engage y'all to reach out to your elected officials. So,
and if something happens before Friday, watch our social medias. We'll post something on there. So.
Yes, I'm very passionate about that bill. I'm like, did I need to explain it and go that quite? Like, probably not, but it is something that our members care heavily and care incredibly. They are incredibly passionate about it, and so therefore, and we have policy for it, and therefore, I am passionate about it. And so it's a controversial bill. It'll be an interesting conversation. If you're at all interested in politics, tune in on Tuesday. You can watch online, and you can see if it is discussed on Tuesday. You'll see quite an interesting conversation, I feel like. So, with that, I am closed on that section at least.
With your water bottle over here.
Yeah, I have to. I'm going to lose my voice.
Yeah, we've talked a lot this week. So actually, I got to go down there Tuesday because our ACLC bunch came in yesterday, and Michelle wanted me to come around and just know where everything's at, so I could take them places if I needed to, if she got busy. So I got to sit in on a lot of conversations, and when we got back to the office, I was like, I'm way too overstimulated, and I have no idea what just went on. But it was all good. It was all great. It was just a lot, and she does a great job. There was like so many conversations. I'm like, how do you keep that straight? There's so much going on, and it was just really interesting to see that. I kind of got to shadow you for the day. Yeah. I feel like so that was really cool.
I also felt overstimulated, so it's fine.
There were a
overcaffeinated,
overstimulated.
There were a lot of people on Tuesday. It's not normally like that because there was Farmers Day at the Capitol, but essentially what Norlie and I were able to talk about was that there is all politics is, maybe not all, the majority of what politics is relationships. And that's why we encourage you to reach out to your senator, reach out to your representative before you have an issue and build that relationship, because that is what I do at the Capitol. Is I have conversations. I have those relationships, and while it means a lot, they understand, that they appreciate, and they know that I represent my members. It means so much more when a constituent reaches out to them and has that relationship with them, because you have the power over them. You either re-elect or don't re-elect that person. And so while the cattleman's obviously carries weight and has a good conversation, a great relationship at the Capitol, the members truly carry the weight, and the individual constituents is where the difference is made a lot of times. So, but it was fun. I enjoyed being able to introduce Norlie around and kind of show her a little bit of what happens at the Capitol, and then again on the second part of it, whenever we'll do ACLC, it was an opportunity. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to introduce them to the legislative side. So really enjoyed it. So with that, I think we're done on state. I don't think I've talked enough, I promise you, about SB290. And so I appreciate y'all's listening. I appreciate your input. I've had quite a few members call us about this bill, asking where we stand and what we're doing. And so we know that our members are engaged and keeping an eye on it. And so we appreciate that.
And if you ever want to come to the Capitol, call us, and I'm sure Michelle would like to walk you around a little bit and introduce you to people. So
while you don't have to have an invitation ever, you don't have to have an escort, you don't have to have anyone with you, it is sometimes nice to be like, oh, so have you met so and so? So I am happy to do that. That's what I'm there for.
Yep,
we'd love to have you to join us. Extra hats on the hill is always nice.
Always repping. So what about the federal level now?
Yes, so there is also government in D.C. And so while we have spent the entirety, it feels like the majority of this week, focusing on the state level, because there are a lot of very big, very controversial, very impactful conversations happening in Little Rock. There are just as many impactful, big conversations happening in D.C. And so while we had our ACLC group here this week, they asked me, they're like, well, where do we stand on a farm bill? Do you think we're going to get a farm bill? I don't know. I think the biggest focus right now for the federal government is the reconciliation package. And so what that means is a budget. And so that's what they're trying to do before they can do a farm bill, because you have to have a budget before you can spend the money. You have to have, here's what exists, here's what happens. And so this week, it feels like it was 3 days ago. It feels like it was 17 days ago. It was only 3 days ago. There were 2 different budget resolutions introduced, and so it was in the House of Representatives. The fiscal year 2025 budget resolution passed by a vote of 217 to 215. 217 to 215. It's a very, very narrow margin. And so it sets the stage for a budget reconciliation that will address border security, immigration, energy, and the thing we talk about every single week and will continue to talk about every single week, the tax package of that portion. And so that was this week in the House of Representatives. The Senate passed a much smaller budget resolution last week that did not include tax package discussions, did not include quite a few things, because as you can imagine, if it's a smaller budget, you have to get there somehow. You have to remove things. And so now what's going to have to happen is both chambers will have to negotiate and meet in the middle and find a budget reconciliation package that works for them. President Trump, Speaker Johnson have been incredibly clear that they would like a budget reconciliation package on the president's desk by early May. So we're going to anticipate pretty intense negotiations coming up throughout March, throughout this month. When I say this month, I mean tomorrow is this month. Throughout March. Mm-hmm. And so seeing lots of different conversations happening there to try to find that middle ground of what is lovingly referred to as the big, beautiful budget and the skinny budget resolution between the 2 chambers. How do we find some middle ground here? The biggest thing we're looking at within that budget for the cattleman's standpoint is looking at the tax package, because it does, sorry, I have my notes here. And so, because I want to get these numbers right. And so the House and Senate will need roughly $4.5 billion to extend the benefits of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And so what those do, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, there's a lot of things in there that are beneficial to cattle producers and to small business owners. And so one of them being the Section 199A that we've talked about, the Section 199A deduction, expensing, bonus depreciation and items there. But it also addresses the death tax repeal. And so either lowering the death tax threshold or repealing the death tax entirely. And so that's where we're looking at and focusing on there. And so it'll be an interesting March and April to see how this process moves forward. We will keep you up to date on it as it moves, but as the federal government meets, the reconciliation package is the priority. It is the number one thing. So while some other things will move through, the big focus is going to be on that reconciliation package. And so until that is introduced and until that is passed and agreed upon, not a lot of other big things are going to come through, if I had to guess. And so we are keeping an eye on that and being involved in those conversations and discussing the tax implications portion of that. And so we're actually getting ready to go to DC at the end of April. So our Arkansas Cattlemen's graduate course and our Arkansas Cattlemen's leadership, our officers, our leaders of the Cattlemen's, I almost said leadership course because it's ACLC, which we'll talk about in a second, but our leadership of the Cattlemen's and our graduate course participants will go to DC at the end of April. And so we'll actually be there at the perfect time, hopefully, to kind of see some of this come to fruition and see some movement on it. So it's been an interesting time in D.C., lots of different things happening. We can continue the tariff conversation. We can continue a lot of things. But I think a lot of it stems back to that reconciliation package. So with that, are there any other questions for Hats on the Hill? If not,
I don't think so. I'm good.
I'm going to move my hat. You can
so
see us
fall.
Literally physically moving the hat so that it doesn't fall. Because Randy would be very upset if I let my hat fall down and messed it up. He 1,000% cares more about this hat than I do. While I enjoy it, I appreciate my hat, I love it. He walked up to me this week. He's like, "You need to wash your hat. You need to clean your hat." I was like, "I know. Thank you for that feedback."
I want to keep mine on my knee because I just realized my water bottle fell and it's like all over the floor.
Here, it's fine. You can hand it. I can put it on my table.
Thanks. Yeah.
Again,
also, Randy has quite literally 100 hats because we asked him at ACLC and we're like, "How many hats do you have?" He said, solidly about 100. I'm like, I believe it. Yeah. Wears one every day. A new one every day, it feels like. He's very stylish.
Yes. At some point, we'll have his hat here for Hats on the Hill.
Yes.
Not that he'll share, but we'll just have a hat.
Yes.
So every week we just bring in one of Randy's new hats.
Yes.
That's what we'll start doing.
Yes.
And so that way we'll at least have a hat on the hill. All right. So we digress. And so we are going to now talk about ACLC. This is normally the portion of the podcast where we talk about membership. We talk about all of these things. So we're going to talk about ACLC, the Arkansas Cattlemen's Leadership Course, because to me this is a very large member benefit. This is a very large, very successful program. We're really excited about it, really proud of it. And so we want to talk about it. So, Norley, if we want to start first, like what is ACLC? Who are these people? How did they get selected?
Yeah.
Type deal.
So the ACLC, Arkansas Cattlemen's Leadership Course, there's 5 sessions in a year. Applications are due in December, and then they're picked in January. 20's picked for a class. There was 45 participants this year. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of cut. Lots of hard decisions by the committee. Me and Michelle, we sit in on it to make sure everything runs right, but we don't get to pick them at all. That's run by the committee. Of like, how many people? 4,
yeah,
5,
quite a
6?
few. Yeah,
quite a few people. And
they look at a lot of different things. They look at the answers to the questions. There's an essay portion of the application. I mean, they look at areas of the state. They look at leadership in the state. If they've already had an ACLC person last year, they look at ACLC graduates in the area. I mean, we give them, Norley and I give them quite a bit of data to make these decisions. So it is tough. I mean, obviously, while we would love to accept all 45, that's just not quite feasible. And so trying to keep it to a manageable number. And so it's hard decisions every year for sure for that committee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's fully funded by sponsors. So that's fun. So there's 5
so it's free to the participant.
Yes,
that's
it's free.
That's what
the
that
participants.
meant.
Yeah. And it doesn't cause us a strain either. So we're very grateful to our sponsors for that. And so there's 5 sessions to each ACLC class. The first one's legislative update or part of it. That's what they did this week. And then the second one is a farm tour they'll have in May. The third one is at convention. I'm not sure really what they do, but because we're busy at that time, but they go around.
They work their booth. Yeah, they have a booth there. They sell raffle tickets. They do quite a bit. They're at convention along with helping us out as needed, and so it kind of gives us a few extra hands. But yeah, we're running around a lot at convention.
We're running around. Okay, and then the fourth one, right? Yeah, is the media training. And that's really cool. A person from NCBA comes out and puts a camera in their face. We're like, tell your story, and they're like, So that's really interesting.
Some hard questions about environmental sustainability and things like that.
Yeah. So very interesting, very cool. They learn a lot. That one's one of my favorites. And then the last one is the beef short course where they get to cut up, fabricate out a carcass. So which is really cool. That you learn a lot doing that one. So lots of learning experiences through ACLC, and there are different producers around the state. Like it used to be called YCLC Young Cattlemen's Leadership Course, but it's open to all ages. You just have to be 21 and up. So
yeah, and so the committee does focus on young producers, beginning producers, trying to make sure that we're still keeping that as a core group. We just realized the committee just realized that they were limiting the number of applicants. They were limiting the scope of the program by saying, hey, you need to be within this age range. And so that a few years ago was when they changed this to the Arkansas Cattlemen's Leadership Course and opened it up to any age range, but they do still have a focus and a tendency towards younger beginning producers. So this is one of my favorite events. I say that. I feel like I said that about all of our events, and they're all true. It's all true. It's like you can't have a favorite child.
They're just fun. They just get us out of the office. We get to talk to people.
We get to see our members.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, this is one of my favorites, is because you get to know these people over the 5 sessions. I mean, it's a year-long program, so they come in January, they graduate in December, and so we really do get to know and interact with these producers very well across the state. We get to go on a farm tour together. Like, we're in a 15-passenger van for hours at a time. So you really get to know each other.
You should know each other real well in a van.
Yeah. And so it's a great time. And so this was your first, you came through when you were an intern, you were able to do the farm tour with the ACLC because that's in the summer. You're able to obviously be there at convention. And then last year, after you were hired on, you were able to do the media training with them, or at least attend that portion of the media training ACLC and the beef short course. And so now you've seen all portions.
Yeah, this is my first legislative session that I've gotten to do for ACLC. So it was really interesting. It was good for all of them to come to the office, see the office, which we were mostly downstairs. But there's a lot of history that's down there on their walls, so they get to see it. And we bring in Jim Baker. He's been a long time member, advocate for ACA, and so he got to come and talk to them, tell his insights. He has some rules to life that are pretty cool.
Yes.
And everything. And some past officers come and talk about ACA, and they get to learn all about us. So
yeah. So they learned about the structure of the Cattlemen's, what it is, our membership structure, our organizational structure, what we stand for, and so that way we're able to share our story as the Cattlemen's of here's what we do, here's what we're here for, here's what we represent, and what our members do. And then we focus on, all right, here's the policy side. So we spend part of the day doing an ACA update, and then the rest of the day discussing policy and lobbying and legislation, because we know, I believe, that that's one of the biggest benefits of the Cattlemen's Association is the legislative representation. And so we want to be able to showcase the work that is done. And so then on the second day, we load them up in one of those 15-passenger vans, and we take them to the Capitol. And so this year they actually were able to see, because we are in a legislative session, and so they were able to go to the Capitol and interact and go to a Senate Ag Committee meeting. They were able to meet with Chairman of the Senate Ag Committee, Senator Ron Caldwell. They were able to meet with Representative Puryear. He came in and shared his insights. And then they were able to go on the Senate floor. Senator Caldwell took them on the Senate floor. They were able to actually see where laws or bills are introduced and passed, and it was a pretty unique experience for them. And then we ended the day of the Capitol with meeting with Lieutenant Governor Leslie Rutledge, and she was able to share her background and history on growing up on a farm, but also what she does and how she can represent and fight for cattle producers or agriculture in the state of Arkansas. So it's a pretty unique opportunity, and so I love being able to take people to the Capitol and being able to show them firsthand and introduce them firsthand to the legislative process. You see it, you hear it, you understand like this much of it, and it's like it's the schoolhouse rock. Like, I'm just a bill. Like, they understand that, but to be able to see and talk to the people that are helping write legislation, that are passing legislation, that are voting on it and making such an impact on the state is eye-opening for people, I believe. Also for them to just see, hey, they're just a person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Both of them, Senator Caldwell and Representative Puryear, both discussed how they really didn't want to run. They really didn't think that they were cut out for it. They were like, I can't be in politics. I don't know how to do this. I don't know what I'm doing when they started. But they were encouraged to run because they wanted to make a difference. And so being able to hear that and see that really, I think, drives home the importance of your senators and your representatives, but also your importance of having a relationship with them and the ability to have a relationship with them. I think if I had to guess, I would say the majority of the members coming in of ACLC did not realize you could just call or text your senator or your representative. Their number is available on the website. I know I always had the story, Representative Vaught always shares the story of she had somebody call her one time and they were like, hey, like I need to speak to Representative Vaught. And she's like, yes, you are. This is she. She's like, oh, like this isn't your secretary. This isn't your staff person. This isn't. She's like, nope. This is my cell phone, Bill. Like this is my cell phone. Like I answer my own phone. I talk to the people. She's like, I'm elected by you. I'm here for you. And so a lot of people just have that misunderstanding, that misconception that there's this huge staff. There's all these people. There's all these things like that. They're not as accessible as they are.
They're not a real person.
Yeah. But they are. They're available. Yeah. They're happy to answer you and talk to you, especially if you are their constituent. More than happy to meet with you and to chat with you. And so I think that, to me, is one of my favorite pieces of being able to see it. So,
and it was really cool because like, we got done with the Senate Ag meeting, and we were kind of standing outside, and we're like, let's just go back in there and sit down. And we sat down at the table with them and had that, just a conversation like me and you are having right now. Just sit down and talk. And I think that was, to me, that was pretty unique. You can sit down and just talk to them, get their raw ideas and everything. So.
Yeah. So what was your favorite part of ACLC? At some point, we will actually have ACLC people on the podcast and talk about it.
Yeah.
This was not the time for it. And so we did not have the time there. We will be doing that shortly, probably maybe during the May tour, and definitely at the end of the year, kind of get their feedback of, hey, what was your favorite thing ever overall once they're able to do it. So what was your favorite part of this session for ACLC?
I guess just watching them interact with everybody, and they're like, oh, this is not as bad as I thought it was. I know that sounds awful, but like
there's a misconception.
They're there for their people, and it's just they're there to have that one-on-one conversation, and I thought that was really interesting.
It's always like, oh, the viewpoint that people have of elected officials is that they are not here for me. They are not here to help. A lot of times is what people think. That is the perception that they have. But this time, I feel like it was made very obvious. We are here for the people. And I believe the good ones, the good people that are elected, that do what they are supposed to, are the ones that are there for their members, for their constituents, because that is government run well. Is when that happens.
Yeah, and I kind of had that personal connection when I went in there Tuesday, and I seen my House representative, and I was like, hey. Like, I didn't have time to talk to him, but I, like, shook his hand and was like, hey, which I know him, so.
Yes, you have met him before, but still. Yes. And that was the other part, is we had the opportunity, when you have ACLC people there, you have 20 people. I mean, you've got quite a few senators and representatives that have a constituent there. And so before we went to the Capitol, I had pictures printed off for them of, here is your representative, here is your senator. So if you're not sure who it is, here you go. Look for this person's face tomorrow when we get there. And so there were quite a few of them that were like, oh, hey, I recognize you. And they went up and introduced themselves. And so the ACLC people were willing to kind of step out of their comfort zone. So I think my favorite part, obviously a big portion of that, yes, agreed, and being able to meet the ACLC people and be able to meet our members from across the state and be able to connect with them. That was very exciting. But I think a good portion of it for me was, again, still that time that Senator Caldwell and Representative Puryear spent with our members, because it was very eye-opening for them to see and feel important. It's very busy. Session is a ridiculously busy time. You live 90 to nothing sometimes, and then sometimes you're like, okay, I have nothing to do. Like, what? I'm just standing here waiting for my next meeting to happen. And so for both of those elected officials to take 30 or 45 minutes of their day, I mean, it was quite a while that they ended up spending with us, because they were having good conversations. They were having and answering questions. And I know both of them had other things that they could have chosen to do, but they chose to spend the time with our members. And our members our ACLC participants showed that appreciation. They asked good questions. They learned a lot. And I think it's just seeing the relationships start to blossom and the relationships come to fruition, for sure, that is exciting to see. And so I think maybe I've made a few political nerds out of the group, hopefully. Hopefully I'm not alone in the excitement and the love of the policy side of it and the legislative side of it. And so I enjoy being able to see and interact with people and be able to help them see the importance of policy and conversations to be had. So that was one of my favorites, is just being able to see them step out of their shell, step out of their comfort zone. There were quite a few of them like, oh, I don't own a blazer. Like, I own a blazer, but like, I don't wear a blazer. Like, how do I do this? And the participants were more than willing, they were excited to kind of step out and be willing to try something new. So it was exciting. So we'll be able to see some of them next week as we start area conferences, but it was a really great time. You'll see a full write-up. If you're curious about it, you can see some of it in social media. On social media, you will see a full write-up of the ACLC program for the first session in the magazine coming up. And so you'll be able to kind of deep dive, see who those people are specifically. We will list them out by name and county and their group photo. And so that way you can kind of see who in your county is in this class and interact with them. If you're a county leader, I encourage you, reach out to these participants, take them under your wing, encourage them to get involved at the county level. And even if you're not a county leader, reach out to this person, invite them to a county meeting, invite them to share about the ACLC program, because I'm sure they are more than happy to do that. And so we're excited to be able to highlight them coming up pretty soon.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Area conferences.
Area conferences. That's it. So we're getting ready for area conferences. They are kicking off next
on Monday.
Week. Monday. Woo! We're very excited.
Yeah, we're excited, but we're not ready for them just yet.
No.
We've had a very, very busy week, but we're so excited for them. We're in a very, very, very busy season at the moment. Yeah. So
I will say we are ready for them. It blows my mind that it's March already. Mm-hmm. We've got all the stakes purchased and ordered. We've got all the charcoal and the lighter fluid. The area VPs have gotten the sides and the drinks and the panel participants ready. So everything's ready. Everything's prepped. It's just, I feel like it's still February 2nd. Like, honestly. How is it almost March 1st? So those are kicking off next week. We start with area 3 and 4. So we'll be in Mount Ida on Monday. We'll be in Hope on Tuesday. So if you are in either of those areas, please come on out, join us. We do ask, even if you have not RSVP'd yet, give us a call, give us a text. Let us know you're coming so we can make sure we have enough steaks and have enough ordered. If you're not, we've got quite a few more, 7 more area conferences after that. And so those RSVP deadlines are not closed yet. So if you have not RSVP'd for your area conference, RSVP, call us and tell us, please. That's how we guarantee we have the steaks for you. We do not want to not have a steak if you get there. So call us, RSVP for those. We'd love to have you. Really excited about the panel that we're going to have this year, brought to you by Farm Credit and the Continuing Education Series grant. So very excited about the producer panel and the ability for them to share their insight of what has made them profitable and made them successful and what they wish they had learned earlier. So very excited about Area 3 and 4 on Monday. We will see you there. Doors open at 5. Dinner starts at 6. We have probably about 25 to 30 vendors at each conference. So I encourage you, get there early, be able to visit with those vendors. They help make this free steak dinner possible. So spend time with them, thank them for their support and there's a sponsorship of the area conference, but also see what they can do to help you on your operation. So anything else for the good people of the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast before we sign out? What do they need to do?
We're excited to see y'all.
Yeah.
But, obviously, like us on social media, follow us, subscribe to everywhere you listen, all the things.
Leave us a like, leave us a comment. We've heard, actually, maybe not surprised, shouldn't be surprised, but I am. A ton of people have been telling me at county meetings, oh, I listened to your podcast, it was great. I was like, oh my gosh, wow, thank you. Like, while we can see the numbers of how many people listen, it still means a lot.
It means a lot. It truly does. We're so thankful y'all are listening, because I feel like I have no idea what I'm doing still.
We're still learning.
But we love the feedback. Thank you so much for telling us and everything. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you.
Words are hard today.
They're hard.
Funny how they're hard when we literally talk for a living. This is what we do. It's fine. But we appreciate it. Thanks for tuning in to episode 6. We will be back next week with a recap of area conferences, the 2 that will have happened, and maybe an update on SB290. So tune in next week. Follow us on social media. Keep an eye on anything happening at the Capitol that we'll announce there. But thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We hope y'all have a great weekend if you listen to this when it comes out. If not, we hope you have a great day. We appreciate your support of the Arkansas Cattlemen's.
Yeah, and I might try to bring my camera and my mic, so I might mic y'all up by the area conferences, so be prepared.
Sneak peek, fair warning, whatever it may be.
Maybe.
Here you go.
If it works, it's fine.
Yeah, we'll try it out. So yeah, we do want to be able to see y'all and talk to y'all at area conferences. By y'all, see y'all. We're going to, but I mean on the podcast.
Right.
And so be open-minded. We'll see.
Yep.
See what happens.
Well, we'll see you.
All right. We'll see y'all next week.
See you later. This is the Arkansas Cattle Business Podcast, your trusted source for all things cattle in the natural state.